Good morning, members. We have a quorum. I call the meeting to order. Item 1 on the agenda, confirmation of minutes. The paper has been issued. Would you like to ask any questions or make any comments? The clerk has not received any proposals for amendments. Could I have a proposer for the confirmation of the minutes, Mr. Ip Kwok Him? Any seconder? Mr. Yu Si Wing seconds. If there are no other comments, we adopt the minutes as the correct record. Secondly, item 2, information papers issued since the last meeting. 5 papers have been issued, 4 of which are such that the Deputy Chairman would like to propose a discussion on the Lung Mei Beach project. Another one is a joint letter issued by a few members, and the other 2 are my replies. We'll come to them later. And I'd just like to mention that the administration has given us an information paper on the project proposal to upgrade the infrastructural works for WKCD Phase 1 Design and Site Investigation to Category A. That's for your information. If there are no questions, the paper that I mentioned just now has not been the subject of any proposal for discussion at the panel meeting here. We'll just accept the paper and put it aside for the moment. If there are no other questions. Next, we'd like to talk about how we'd like to tackle the Lung Mei Beach project. I have received 2 letters, one from the Deputy Chairman, the other one from a few members from the DAB. They have said that the Lung Mei Beach project should be the subject of a meeting or a joint panel meeting together with the Environmental Affairs panel. The clerk, would you like to say anything? I think members are requested to indicate their intention. Mr. Ip Kwok Him? Thank you, Chairman. We have written you a letter. Since there is this discussion in society in recent times, and the Lung Mei Beach project has been followed up at the HAP, and we can make use of some proper channel. For example, it should come here and then to the PWSC and finally to the FC. But now environmentalists are speaking up about this project, let's say, and I understand that there will be a discussion at the EAP. Mr. Kenneth Chan, the Vice Chairman of that panel, or of this panel rather, has asked for that to be discussed as well. Since in the last term, the HAP was the forum for follow-up on this issue, I'd like to propose a joint panel meeting, and in fact we can just join up with the EAP at their scheduled meeting. I think that is all right, but we should have a joint panel meeting instead of we being invited by the EAP to attend their meeting. This is what the DAB members think. We'd like to have a joint panel meeting because this will be in line with what was done at the last term vis-a-vis the follow-up of this matter. So, Chairman, please consider having a joint panel meeting with the EAP. Thank you. Mr. Wu Chi-wai. Thank you, Chairman. I agree we have a joint panel meeting. When we prepare for the discussion, we'd like the administration to provide some information to us. Under the approved budget or financial estimate, is it that there are absolutely no options to tackle the issues of environmental conservation and its balance against development? Say, for example, I once proposed that you could continue to build that beach, but it should be a site for conservation. Therefore, I like the administration also to address this point by providing options in the paper instead of we being stuck with take it or leave it. Mr. Christopher Chung, I agree we should have a joint panel meeting. All along, it has been the HAP which followed up the issue. Now that the EAP is proposing to have a meeting on it, and since a few members have joined both panels, perhaps we should have a joint panel meeting. Let me give you an account here. I did talk to Ms. Sit-ho, the chairman of the EAP, while I was there together with our deputy chairman. At that time, it was said that they have already scheduled a meeting on Lung Mei, so they would like to invite us to go and attend the meeting, and we were saying perhaps we should allow them to go ahead with the discussions first and to see what the result will be. But then there was another view saying that even if the EAP has scheduled a meeting, we should have a joint panel meeting. Now we have to decide on two things. One, would you agree that we would have a joint panel meeting? Second, should we devote some time for a joint panel meeting, or would we like to join up with the EAP because they have already scheduled a meeting on Lung Mei? 5 members and the deputy chairman have agreed that we should have a joint panel, and Mr. Wu Chi-wai also agrees. Mr. Raymond Chan, you also agree? Okay. I don't think we should put it to the vote. I think we're all agreed. And what remains to be decided is that we would talk to the EAP to see whether we should have a particular meeting slot for this, or should we just join up with the EAP and turn that into a joint panel meeting. In other words, the EAP can start its meeting and complete its first item on the agenda, and the second agenda item will be turned into a joint panel meeting. That's one way to do it, and another way to do it is to find another meeting slot. And the immediate question is when. I have talked to the clerk, and I have also communicated with Ms. Sit-ho. In other words, if we don't turn that item into a joint panel meeting, we can find another date. Mr. Yu Kwok-him? Chairman, I think it's all right for us just to join up with the EAP. In other words, as long as we can turn that item into a joint panel meeting, then we can express our views. I was just saying that the HAP definitely has a role to play because it was followed up by us in the last term. If they do not mind, let us join up with them and turn that into a joint panel meeting. That will be the easier way to do it. Mr. Peter Chang-kwok-chi. Chairman, many people are concerned about this item. If it is just one item on the agenda, there would be less than 2 hours for it. Well, I doubt if 2 hours will be enough, indeed. And if 2 panels join up, there are more people sitting down to discuss matters. Any other views? If not, we'll have to make a decision. Should we have an joint panel meeting per se, standing on its own, or should we ask the EAP to turn the item scheduled for November into a joint meeting? I think we can put it to the vote. Those who would like to adopt the first option, or let me ask the questions separately. In other words, a separate joint panel meeting, or turning the item on the 26th into a joint panel meeting. Okay, those who would like to go for the first way. Which one is the first way, Chairman? A separate joint panel meeting held on its own. Who would like to do this? Please, hands up. 4. Those who would like to join up with the EAP and turn the item scheduled for the EAP and turn it into a joint panel meeting, hands up. 6. Okay, the decision is made. But still, I have to take this up with the chairman of the EAP still, because we're asking them to turn that part of the meeting into a joint panel meeting, and in fact, the clerk can talk to them to see whether we can lengthen the period of discussion for that item. Right. That's it. Next, item 3, date of next meeting and items for discussion. In fact, together with the Deputy Chairman, we have had an informal meeting with the administration on the 25th of October to discuss our work plan for the next year. In the list of outstanding items for discussion, which has been updated, you can see the items. Members, any views on that list of outstanding items? I'd like to mention that in that list, there are 2 other items which will be included. First of all, the remuneration for district council members and also public consultation. These 2 have been suggested by Mrs. Regina Ip and Dr. Kenneth Chan at the SC or Constitutional Affairs panel, but then they are items under our jurisdiction, so they have been referred to us. If there are no other questions, let us look at the date of the next meeting and items for discussion. Can we ask the administration team to come in now so they know what we are talking about? The administration team should come in now.
係另外呢，我哋係同政府已經
And in fact, we have got this tacit understanding with the administration that on the 14th of December, when we have our next meeting, we would schedule 2 items. 1, open bazaar in Tin Shui Wai, and 2, sports policy. What do you think, members, about these 2 proposed items for December? If there are no comments, that's it for the December meeting. Now, next item on the agenda, item 4, cultural work in the new term. Attending for this item from the administration. Yes. We have Miss Florence Hui, Undersecretary for Home Affairs, Miss Elaine Mack, PAS for Home Affairs, Miss Wang Yuhua, PAS for Home Affairs, and Miss Cynthia Liu, Deputy Director of LCSD. Good morning. First, I'll ask the administration to do an introduction. They have given us a PowerPoint. I hope the administration will be as brief as possible because we have got the paper already. Yes, indeed. We'd like to just give a brief introduction to the chairman and members on the cultural work of the new term of government. All along, our vision is to turn Hong Kong into an international cultural metropolis and to bring arts to the people of Hong Kong so life can be enriched and will be innovative. In terms of policy, we go in the following directions. 1, to provide opportunities for wide participation in culture and arts, and also to provide opportunities for our arts groups and provide them with support, and also to develop those who are artistically talented. And we need to create an environment conducive to the diversified and balanced development of arts and culture. And while we do so, we'd like to support the preservation and promotion of our traditional culture while encouraging artistic creation and innovation. At the same time, the policy direction is to protect non-tangible or intangible cultural heritage so that Hong Kong will continue to be a center for cultural cooperation and exchange. And on this, we follow the following principles. First of all, people-oriented, and secondly, to promote diversified and dynamic cultural environment. Of course, we need to maintain our respect for artistic freedom and enhance protection of intellectual property. And adopting a holistic approach, we hope to involve different art groups in the community and to forge a partnership among the government and the cultural sector. And these are all our directions. And according to our policy, we have all along been supporting the development of arts and culture in Hong Kong. As far as commitment is concerned, we have an annual commitment of $3 billion, accounting for 1% of government expenditure. And in passing, as far as private sponsorship is concerned, it's now standing at around $100 million. Now, for the 9 major performing arts groups, we are providing recurrent funding of around $300 million. And for small and medium-sized art groups, we also give them support with over $200 million through the HAB, etc. And we also like to cultivate talent. At the same time, the HAD also have various schemes, for example, training schemes for art administrators and museum trainees. And we also have subsidized 21 venue partners in these training schemes. Now, on building audience, we also take a comprehensive approach and we work with schools and different sectors. And annually, there are over 30,000 performances and with participation of the audience, and 4,000 of them were organized by the LZSD. And for the various programs related to schools, they attracted over 180,000 students. And the music office also trained every year 8,000 students who took part in activities with over 170,000 people. And all the major arts bodies have been providing their valuable views, and all these committees comprise 4 areas: arts development and education, museum, library, venues, and programs. And intangible heritage, and also we have dedicated bodies for that. As for cultural activities, they're now held at various cultural venues. And just to briefly report to members, these cultural facilities, for example, performance venues, museums, and under the music office, we have music centers and libraries. And there are also some other arts and cultural facilities not under the purview of LCSD, and we do cooperate with these operators. And our cultural calendar is becoming more and more enriched with more and more activities. So the following are just some examples of activities held in different seasons. And some activities have become internationally renowned activities. We believe that art must be integrated with our lives, and so it is important to communicate with the community and schools. And we also like to brief members on these programs. For example, this is a dancing activity in the walled village, and through cultural ambassador in the community, we bring this performance to the community. And we have 3 bamboo theatres for Cantonese opera, and we invite different Cantonese opera performance groups to give their performance for the community. As far as the community is concerned, we also work with the HAD in promoting the vibrant people harmonious community activities, and we have different activities at the district level. For example, the Yao Chim Mong Festival also carries a
and a cultural element. And we also have cultural tours. And this one is the Chunwan Festival, and there was a dance performance as well as a museum tour. In another community, we also had a music program with the participation of community groups, comprising participants of elderly, children, and also police. And the performance was about a story happening in a Chinese cafe, and in various community halls, not currently managed by the LCSD. We provided programs for the local residents, and they're now giving a modern dance performance. Please try to be brief so that we have more time for questions from members. These are some displays and sculptures by local artists at Kwun Tong Promenade. School Cultural Day. This has been in place for over 15 years, and various schools took part in different cultural programs, and a program for secondary school students, and also we encourage senior secondary school students to take part in art appreciation. And we're also seeing more and more art display in public parks. For example, this park deco, we have some decorated parks, and also the Legislative Council, and also this art at government buildings. And this one is in Cheung Wan, and this one in Chunwan. Sculptures. Well, again, we are seeing more, and according to the survey done by the Hong Kong Institute of Sculptures, there are 390 sculptures in public display in Hong Kong, and 70% of them are created by local artists. Intangible heritage conservation. We already have 6 of them in Hong Kong, and for Cantonese opera, it's now being recognized by the UNESCO, and we are now conducting a territory-wide survey to compile a list and database for this purpose. Cultural exchanges, we have signed MOU with 13 countries, and we will further build up our cultural network. WKCD program. We have reached the final stage, and we're now at the stage of preparing for design competitions for various facilities. We hope that apart from hardware, we'll also develop software. Cultural promotion. We now have apps providing information about various arts and cultural activities. We also work with the mass media, and we also have publication for this purpose. Now, for a new term, we will head that in 4 directions, which will enhance our resources, cultural resources, and to introduce art into the community. We'll also encourage the participation of the business sector and encourage interaction between culture and industries. And we'll also facilitate external exchange and cooperation. And that's why we're giving members this briefing, so that we know, you know more about the work that we do, and regarding the enhancement of cultural resources, all the relevant information are set out in our paper. For example, in enhancing the funding mechanism for MPAGs, we have recently introduced an extra funding available. which is on a competition basis. And the Arts Development Council will also explore whether to extend the 1-year, 2-year scheme to 3 years. Cultivating talents. The LCSD, APA, and the HKADC all work towards this direction in cultivating more talents in Hong Kong, and will also enhance some public cultural facilities and services. For example, museums and libraries. Improvement works will be done in the coming term to provide better facilities for the public. And we will also study into how to provide more cultural venues and how to make better use of the existing venues, including the venue in Old Street for visual arts programs. And we'll also enhance publicity and promotion of arts. We'll continue to step up our cooperation with the HKDC and the RTHK. As for enriching culture and the arts in the community, we'll continue to work with district councils, and the HKDC and the LCSD will continue to work towards this goal to entrenching culture and arts in the community. And we will also enhance cultural and arts programs implemented in communities and schools. Public artists, or art in public, is also one of our key tasks, and we will work with MTLCL. For news stations, we will ask for artwork proposals so as to provide a more aesthetic environment for passengers. We will also encourage cultural volunteer work, for example, cultural tours, promotion, and reading ambassadors in the community. And we will also promote the reading culture. These are all key tasks for us in the coming term, and there are also 2 other key tasks, and that's encouraging community-wide participation and enhancing exchanges and cooperation with other regions. Perhaps I'll say more about that when we take questions from members. Thank you, Ms. Hui. Okay, we'll move on to taking questions from members. Well, there are many members who would like to ask questions. Mr. Fung-kwok, Yip Kwok, him, etc., and myself, and Dr. Helena Wong. May I suggest that we compress the speaking time to limit to 4 minutes, including a reply from the administration, to ensure that we all get the opportunity to ask questions. And Mr. Yu Siwing as well. All right, questions, please, Mr. Wong Kok Heng. Thank you, Chairman. I have 2 questions for the administration. The first one, now about the establishment of a culture bureau. What is the policy direction of the new term of our administration? During the last meeting, as you can see in paragraph 7 of the minutes, I already raised this question. I asked for the policy direction and objective of the establishment of the Cultural Bureau. However, the administration did not say anything about it during the presentation. Does it mean that this is no longer in the pipeline? Right now, Arts and Cultural Policy is under HAB, and Under Secretary for Home Affairs has come to brief us on cultural policy. Why can't we have a cultural bureau in Hong Kong? Is it the case that for the new term of government, they are no longer pursuing the setting up of a cultural bureau?
Secondly, a development fund for Chinese opera or Cantonese opera. It's clear that Sunbeam Theatre in North Point, after a lot of lobbying by the community and also, of course, through the efforts of C.Y. Leung, Sunbeam Theatre has been rescued. However, it remains a community project, and the extension has only been for 4 years. We don't want to have another signature campaign 4 years after or down the road and then to rescue Sunbeam Theatre again. When it reopened, very renowned and respectable Cantonese opera singers came to officiate, and what she said was indeed very moving, and C.Y. Leung also came to the opening ceremony. So it goes to show that the new term of government also places a lot of emphasis on the theatre, and so you should be involved in supporting it. So what about this theatre, which is so very much needed by the community? However, there is no mention of it in your paper. Those two questions, please. Ms. Hui. First, about the setting up of the Culture Bureau. As the CE said earlier on, this is shelved. Whether we have a separate Culture Bureau or whether the work is undertaken by the HAB, well, there are pros and cons. The HAB has done this on a continuous basis, and as we know, arts and culture should have long-term support, and as you know, we really have to do this on a continuous, sustained basis so that we can further our synergy with the community. But we are all ears to you on this one. Secondly, Cantonese opera development. Mr. Wang Kwok mentioned the Cantonese opera funding. In the last term, we injected 69 million. Now the funding stands at $120 million. We have many venue partners. We actually have specified partners in 4 venues in Sha Tin, Tuen Mun, Yuen Long, and Yau Ma Tei. Yau Ma Tei, as you know, we have a Siqu Center. Every year, we are going to stage 130 shows by budding artists, and also at 5 venues. At the Hong Kong CC, we have preserved slots for Cantonese opera training courses. Therefore, we are confident that through the cooperation and promotion together with the sector, we are doing a lot. We also ferry audiences by coaches to Cantonese opera shows. Mr. Wang, I think I should regret the administration for saying that there is no intention to set up the Culture Bureau, and she has not said anything about the Sunbeam Theatre. I regret her. Mr. Ip Kwok Him, at the last term, there was a lot of discussion on culture as well, and in fact, we were unanimous in asking for a Culture Bureau. We believe it has a major role in promoting culture in Hong Kong. Listening to Ms. Florence Hui, I can confirm that there is a lot to be done about culture building. I hope the SARG can give it some serious thought now that culture is subsumed as a major initiative under HAB. Obviously, this is not good enough for promoting culture in Hong Kong. The present structure is not doing the job well. Now I'd like to ask 2 questions. I can see that in terms of sculpture in public, she says that by walking 90 minutes in Central, we should be able to appreciate 23 such arts pieces. We have said that hopefully such sculptures can be more readily seen in the community. The panel went to Japan, South Korea, and other places, and we gained a lot of experience in this respect. Those governments would invariably do this. 1% of any building cost should be devoted towards the installation of arts. And can you not play a leading role in this? Secondly, support and funding for medium and small-sized arts troupes. I'd like to know more, please. When we promote arts and culture in Hong Kong, you have to build the audience base. they can certainly help in promoting the growth of such small and medium-sized arts troops. Any support for them? Ms. Hui, thank you for the views and questions. First of all, public arts or sculptures in the open. Mr. Ip asked whether we can consider devoting a certain percentage of building costs to the installation of arts. We don't have that plan yet. But then in terms of promoting public arts, we are doing different things. I mentioned different public arts program. Last time we did the installation at 4 places, and in fact we are planning to do so at another 6 government buildings, including government offices. The same for parks. One of the new projects is to cooperate with MTRCL. As you know, you understand the people flow around the stations. Therefore, at new MTRCL stations, they would be asking for proposals so as to bring arts to the public. As for funding and support for small and medium-sized arts troops, we do that through different channels. The Hong Kong ADC has about $100 million on an annual basis for the promotion of arts. And the medium and small-sized arts troops are the main targets of this support. At the bureau level, we have the ACDFS in order to give them support, and the LCSD also organizes arts festivals so that the small and medium-sized arts troops can take part. Next member. Stephen Ho, you said that you would preserve traditional culture. What do you mean by traditional culture? Does it include the culture of fish catching? In the past 10 years, as an average member of the public, I have not seen what the administration has done by way of preserving our fish catching culture. When the CE ran for election, he said that we started as a fishing village. But what about the culture of a fishing village? What have you done about it? What have you done before? And what do you plan to do? In terms of preserving and promoting the fishing village culture, any plan, any investment? Thank you, Mr. Ho, for your question. With regard to traditional arts or culture, indeed, this is a huge area to work on. We, being Hong Kong, we are here where the East meets the West, and therefore we have a rich soil for particularly promoting South China culture. In fact, we are having a central role to play in terms of the culture of Southern China. And also, Hong Kong is a fishing village. In terms of preserving intangible culture, a lot of it has to do with fishing village culture. We have the Tin Hau Festival. And we do talk about the ocean a lot. And as for intangible culture, another aspect is Cantonese opera. In terms of Xi Qu, music, drama, and even calligraphy, painting, we can do all that to preserve traditional culture. These are just art forms, but the content is set against the background of a fishing village. Say, for example, the Hong Kong dance troupe has this dance number which features the evolution of Hong Kong from a fishing village into what we are today. In a moment, maybe we can have more exchange with Mr. Stephen Ho, because we have really done a lot in this aspect, but we still like to listen to Mr. Ho to see how we can further our work. I'd like to add, people in fishing have always said that the administration has not really positioned the fishing village culture as it should. I hope the Bureau will talk more to the fisher folks. And you said that in terms of a fishing village culture, It is just subsumed under the performance numbers of certain troops, but we don't know about them. And members of the public cannot seek to know that this is related to a fishing village culture because it's dispersed among different art forms. I hope you can take it out from such art forms and then do something about it for its own sake. I thank Mr. Ho for saying this because the challenge is really publicity and promotion, and that is how we can disseminate the message to members of the public. Members' support and participation is extremely important. Mr. Christopher Chung, I'd like to declare I'm a member of the ADC, I'm a member of the Hong Kong Repertoire Theatre, and a member of another organization. My first question is whether the administration has really promoted culture on a district level. Mr. Donald Tsang gave $1 million to the arts troops of all districts, and each only got $60,000. When it was depleted, that was it. And then last year you said that there would be a sum of money for district councils, but then in fact it was quite successful. So I'd like to know whether there would be dedicated funds for district festivals to be held every 2 years so as to enrich culture on a district level. When we went to Taiwan a few years ago, we found that the arts troops there go in two directions, and that is they visit villages and then they also look towards the mainland. Apart from the entertainment industry going into the mainland, do you also support arts development on the mainland? And as for sculpture in the open, you said there are 390 such public sculptures. I think it's a shame. We have a population of 7 million, and how does that translate into for each member of the public? So I'd like to know, you do something more about sculpture in the arts. I think the number matters. Without the numbers, you cannot have quality. And also, number 4, will you organize arts and culture activities that would have an international importance, especially featuring our soft power instead of just having arts festivals or film festivals? Ms. Hui, I thank Mr. Chung for his views and questions on district culture. The district culture groups, well, they are our important partners, but at the same time, we also have partnering relationships with other groups and the business. And of course, the district councils are important. In the new term, we'll continue to promote our work in this aspect, and specifically, as we said in the slides, we gave you examples, and Mr. Chung talked about district festivals. If they are supported by district councils, we certainly would like to work with the LCSD to help promote such festivals. And actually, in certain districts, they are already organizing festivals. I think before December, there will be 3 to 4 districts organizing district festivals. And Mr. Chung, if you can find the time, please come to take part. Secondly, professional bodies. I think Mr. Chung was talking about their exchange overseas, particularly with the mainland. In the new term, this is also the main thrust of our work, and that is to allow our arts troops to strengthen their exchange activities, and at the same time, they can promote Chinese culture overseas. And number 3, public sculptures or arts in the open.
Well, the survey I mentioned was conducted by the Hong Kong Institute of Sculptors, and we have actually exceeded the Western countries, but we should not be adamant. We should continue to work in this direction to further enhance our work in this regard. And as I said just now, in government buildings and also parks, we're also going to provide more public art. This is just one of the works we do with the business sector. Next, Mr. Lam Tai Fai and Mr. Wu Chi Wai. Thank you, Chairman. Under Secretary, just now when you spoke, you talked about the 5 major principles, and one of the principles is to have diversified development and also promotion on a holistic approach. I am worried that it will be more like a slogan, chanting slogans than doing actual works, because the arts groups have not been taken seriously, and there is a lack of long-term policy. So for these small and medium-sized art groups, they do not have the funding, they do not have financial resources, they do not have their own venues, and they do not have sufficient resources to cultivate talent. And this will deter people from joining the groups, and in the long run this will hinder the cultivation of talents. And you said that the HKDC subsidized over 330 arts groups, but only 39 of them were small and medium arts groups, so the percentage was small. And also the government subsidized 4,100 performances with $98 million. So in the beginning you said that altogether you had a funding of $3 billion. So this only accounted for 0.3% of the total. I can't see what policy in general you have in supporting small and medium-sized arts groups. There is only one sentence on page 28. So about the principles, please tell me whether this applies to small and medium-sized arts groups as well. And if support will be given, please refrain from using slogans. Now for Chiu Chao, Fujian natives, there are over 2 million of them in our population. So we have a significant influence. So for the new term of government, what will the government do to promote Chiu Chao and Fujian culture so that they feel they're part of Hong Kong? Under Secretary. Thank you, Dr. Lam, for your question about small and medium-sized groups. Now, Dr. Lam's concern is about 3 areas: funding, talents, and venues. I'd like to go deeper into this issue. So, although you can see that the LCSC provides subsidy of $98 million, but in fact, altogether, the subsidy for these groups from HAB amounts to $200 million. And we have a venue partnership scheme. And these venue partners are in fact small and medium-sized art groups. And when they become our partners, we also provide support as far as grooming talents are concerned, because we provide the venue for their performance, and we also give them support in training arts administrators. I'll defer to the Deputy Director to say more in this regard. I'm worried that you won't have enough time to talk about the promotion of our traditional culture. Or perhaps I can further share with Dr. Lam the work in this regard. Coming back to our culture, Chiu Chao culture, in fact, the Yulan Ghost Festival has become one of the intangible cultural heritage that we're going to preserve. And through preservation of the cultural heritage, we will promote one very core value of the Chinese culture, and that's filial piety. Next, Mr. Wu Chi Wai, to be followed by Mr. Fung-kwok Chi. Thank you, Chairman. I have this impression from the paper that the cultural work of the new term of government is just a phase project of the government. If you go to Taiwan, you won't find them gauging their achievement by the number of sculptures they have. They rely on the overall cultural ambience instead. However, I don't see any indicator or any way to enhance our cultural ambience. Now you talk about arts and cultural development, but the whole paper is about arts or even fine arts. The paper is all about that. So will you revise your paper? Because in fact you have not included cultural elements. You have just confined to a small area, and some members have talked about resources for our arts groups, but I think that we need a policy to support them. For example, when we revitalize industrial buildings, some arts groups in the community that are naturally thriving in the community are being extinguished. So has the Bureau told the government that in fact you are depriving the groups of the rooms for survival? I don't see that. Now about venues, I think that more should be done to release LCSD venues for use. In the past, for the venues managed by the Urban Council, that was the topic of discussion. But now, can you make available more LCSD managed venues? Of course, I think all these are not useful at all, but I don't think this is about the core. Well, you should save more time for the administration to reply to you. Can you give me a paper that describes the resources you have input for the 6 key policy objectives? And the Secretary. Well, the key principles of the policy is about entrenching arts and culture in the community, and we do this by introducing arts and culture in schools and the community in order to enhance the cultural ambience and the cultural development in Hong Kong. Mr. Wu talks about arts groups in industrial buildings. This is also very much our concern. We're also concerned about the room for development for these arts groups. My question is whether you have voiced out for these arts groups in industrial buildings. We have been in close liaison with these arts groups, and we would like to explore how we can provide support for these arts groups in an interdepartmental approach. Next, Mr. Chiang Kwok-chi. Thank you, Chairman. Well, I thank the administration for giving us this long PowerPoint presentation. I would call it a stock-taking of exercise. I don't know if this is a policy that has been discussed by the community, or is it just a policy proposed by the government? Now, here it says providing support for those with potential to develop their artistic talents. What about those without less potentials? With less potentials, is it an elitist approach that we're talking about? The government says that $3 billion annually will be set aside for recurring expenditure. My question is the percentage of funding for subsidy directly for arts groups and publicity and promotion of arts. by doing some calculations, I think that roughly each individual or group would only get $400 a year. And I am concerned about the training for disabled artists, because we understand that for people with disabilities, for example, autistic artists, they're really doing quite well, for example, in dance performance, and we can develop towards this direction. However, I don't see the government attaching importance to that. And it seems that the fund, the subsidy for these arts groups are limited. They're treated like other arts groups. But I do think that we should do more to help these disabled arts groups. So I wonder if the administration has more support for them. Under Secretary. Thank you, Mr. Zhang, for your question. In fact, as far as cultural policy is concerned, we have been consulting the public, including the LegCo, since the last term. And the directing principles have been discussed by the arts and cultural sector, and we have collated their views. And we'll continue to update our principles, and we're happy to take on board views to help us improve. As for Mr. Zhang's concern, that is disabled artists and how we can include them better in our community. In fact, in 7F, we want to promote arts of the underprivileged. This is also the work for this term of government. And we also want to do this right. For example, for some drama performances, if appropriate, we can provide sign language interpretation or subtitles. As for artists with disabilities, they can also take part in different types of arts performances. Next, Mr. Ichiming, followed by Dr. Anne Chang. I have to declare I am an ex-co member of the Hong Kong Repertoire Theatre. I'm also a director of WOLF, and many arts groups are facing the problem of insufficient venues. Now, before the HKCD project is completed, are there any ways to increase the number of venues available for these arts groups? Because if there are more venues, ticket prices would go down, and this is one way of helping the arts groups. Next, as mentioned by members, now we will not have a culture bureau, and I wonder if the administration will set up a dedicated team for promoting arts and culture in Hong Kong. The third point on page 3 of the administration's paper, it says that the different arts and culture program will be run by institutions, but nothing is said about secondary schools. I said that because because funding has been provided by 10 selected schools, but for many schools, they already have music training programs and so on, and through the Sinfonietta, we organize a music program for students.
The response was so good. Students were really very happy about it, and so we'd like to repeat it. So under your bureau, do you have resources? Maybe through the Education Bureau or through your own efforts, so as to allow schools to do more in this respect, because you want to popularize arts and culture. You must do so at the secondary school level, so students have their interest built up so they can continue to be interested in arts and culture. Thank you, Mr. Yik. A few aspects. One, venues for performing groups. At LCSD venues, well, in the short term, we may not be able to add to the numbers, but before WKCD is available, we are promoting the use of non-LCSD venues, and we can support arts troops to perform there. There are 17 such venues in Hong Kong, including the theatre at the ADC, the auditorium of ADC, and also at Youth Square. We have a few venues as well, and we're making more use of such venues so that we can provide more venues for the arts and performing groups. And secondly, a new feature at Oil Street, the arts space there, it can also very much be used. Mr. Yik, you talk about cultural work. We have a devoted group to work together with the LCSD and other community groups to promote culture. As for secondary schools, I did not have the opportunity and time to go into what we are doing at schools. We have school culture days, school culture training course. We have for higher secondary, we have also arts critique courses. In fact, both primary and secondary schools can take part. And in terms of school culture day, in a period of 10 years, over 80% of all Hong Kong schools have taken part, and 1.2 million students have taken part. Now 7 members are standing in line to ask questions, but time is almost up for this item. I'd like to propose that we extend this item by about 15 minutes. And also, members, please only have 2 minutes each so as to allow all members to speak, and then the administration can answer all the questions at one go. Any views, or else you won't have time for members to ask questions. Anne Chiang, Helena Wong, myself, UC Wing, Raymond Chan, Sid Ho, and Starry Lee. Any more members who would like to ask questions? If not, would you like to agree that we have 2 minutes each? 2 minutes, Chairman? Okay, I'll try to be quick. I can speak fast. Okay, 2 minutes, no time for follow-up, and the administration will answer all questions at one go. Next time, Chairman, please do your calculations right at the beginning. Don't cut the 4 minutes suddenly to 2 minutes. You should have a more gradual deduction of our time, maybe from 3 to 2 to 1. But then some members have come in late, and then they have also registered the intention to speak. If there are no other questions, Ms. Anne Chang. From this work report, Ms. Hui, I think the HAB has done an excellent job. With regards to Art Deco and also the painted glass, I think that is quite good. I think it should be further promoted even for private buildings. And then I think you can do Art Deco in big parks, not in the small ones, because there is no space. As far as guided tours around the districts is concerned, I have taken part, but then there has not been sufficient publicity because the group I went in was not a big group. I think you should do more by way of publicity. And as for the way forward, this may sound diversified. There are a lot of things, but then you have not really focused on certain issues. Talking about arts development or cultural development, you have to look at the needs of the present society and what you want to do for the future. You have to do something that is community-based. Many young people are forming bands, but you have not mentioned that in paper. Please answer. Ms. Hui will answer you at one go afterwards. Ms. Helena Wong. Thank you, Chairman. Is the government clear about Hong Kong's culture policy? What are the core matters in this policy? Have you come to grips with what the academia and civic society said about Hong Kong's culture policies? What are the worries and aspirations? What is a kind of dynamic cultural life? Can the administration take the initiative and then for you to disperse funding for arts groups recognized by you so that we have a culture policy? Next one, myself. Just one point. According to my experience at the ADC, the administration cannot have enough funding for small and medium-sized groups. From the setting up of the ADC until today, the total funding has not been up to $100 million, but then public expenditure has increased by 100% in the interim, and property prices have gone up by 6 to 7 times in the same period. And the ADC is spending more in terms of administrative expenditure, and they are providing funding for more groups, and therefore what trickles down to each group has been decreasing. And we also have a development fund, the Arts Capacity Development Fund. It has been like $20 million, but now it has gone up to $30 million. But compared to the period past, this is still not enough. And then venues, district groups have a great need for such venues. Have you considered coordinating with another bureau so that when school premises are being used, they can be released for the use by district groups? Next one, UC Wing. Thank you, Chairman. One of your focus of work is overseas exchange, but I cannot see anything that is tied to tourism. In fact, you have a lot of resources here. You have museums, also cultural heritage, and also exhibitions with a special touch. I think Macau has done a great job in terms of museums and heritage exhibitions. You see a lot of that done in Macau. At the pier, you see posters telling you about arts exhibitions in the next month, and tourists get to know that immediately. But I think the Hong Kong administration has done enough in this respect. Together with the Tourism Commission or Bureau, and also the Tourism Board, I think you should do more. Ms. Sitho, I'd just like to know how the cultural sector can also participate in the making of culture policies, because in the last legislative election, many heavyweights in the culture sector came out to say that they are not constituents of that FC. One is Mr. Yun Xiu-fai. Nobody can question his contribution and position that he holds in terms of CG performance. However, you have to have the support of the LCSD and the ADC before you can become a constituent of the FC. And these two bodies seem to be selecting the constituents. However, these groups are promoting popular culture. However, the LCSD would support groups with a certain level of performance or a certain standard only. So your two policies go against each other. I'll ask the Bureau to take a review ASAP to see how you can delineate constituents for the sports and culture FC. Of course, I'm all for the removal of FCs, but before you do so, those heavyweights in the culture sector should not be kept out of the door. Chairman, I'm sure you would have discussions with them whether they are your constituents, but I think the Bureau should supply a paper to us afterwards to let us know how or what they are going to do about people's eligibility to become constituents of that functional constituency. Last but not least, Mr. Starry Lee. Chairman, as you said, I have a similar question of yours. Many groups or troops always complain about the insufficiency of performance venues. there are formal and informal venues. About formal venues, we have theaters and community halls. And you and I, of course, went to an event about Canton's opera or Siqu performance, and then we also have children groups and other forms of Chinese opera. But then they have not been able to secure a venue under the LCSD. Many of them have told me that they might have to spend a year or over a year before they can successfully book a venue for performing. In terms of promoting the performing arts and also creative culture, this is not going to be very good. I know the administration is looking for land and they are looking to turn GIC sites into residential use. I understand there is a serious lack of residential sites, but that is not the only problem. We also lack performing venues. The Bureau. Can I ask the Bureau through you, Chairman, that we be given a paper afterwards? Because I think the Bureau should take stock of the demand for venues, because we have received views from the community that they are under huge pressure. I think you should have short, medium and long-term proposals to tackle the problem. If you do not have an effective and scientific study and then you just turn GIC sites for residential use, I think that is not good, because performing groups are complaining. And also about street performance. That is also a cultural part. I think you should include that next time. Sorry, you have to stop because we should all be subject to the time rule. There are 5 minutes more. I think the administration can give a consolidated answer within the 5 minutes. Sorry, I have already drawn the line and we have registered all the names of members who had intended to speak already. So if you still have a question, you should take it up with the administration after the meeting. But Under Secretary, now you have 5 minutes to answer all the questions. Yes, Chairman, thank you. I'd like to say that I thank all the members who have spoken and who have not spoken for your concern and enthusiasm towards arts and culture. I think that is very much exhibited through what you said. Members have covered a few areas. First of all, about venues, including what the chairman and Ms. Starley said. As I said, in terms of venues, we are enhancing LCSD venues, and to see whether it be the LCSD venues or non-LCSD venues, we want to see how we can provide different venues for performing groups through cooperation projects. Mr. Chairman talked about school premises. In other places overseas, they face the same problem. Like in the UK, they also have a venue shortage problem. They have this campaign of one church, 100 uses going on. They think that the church, in fact, is also a good venue for arts and culture activities or even community activities. They are, therefore, promoting the use of churches for different functions. Perhaps we can take this up further with members later. So we can enhance venues and also to make better use of existing venues, and we can certainly work with members on this.
Now, the second aspect is the members' concern about cultural policy, and that there was a question raised by Dr. Helena Wong. And overall speaking, the cultural policy is that we encourage partnership with different sectors of the community. We have arts groups in the community and also civic society. We hope that through cooperation and the pool of collective wisdom, we can further enhance and enrich our culture. And Ms. Ho asked a question about election. Election falls under the scope of a CMAB, and we will refer Ms. Ho's question to the CMAB. Ms. Ho also talked about voters registration and Mr. Yun Silfai's case. and at that time, eventually he succeeded in the registration. But why is it that we had to voice out and complain before he was allowed to be registered? Oh, I don't think we should follow up that question here. Ms. Hui, you may continue. Third point about promotion. Ann Chang and Mr. U.C. Wing talked about promotion. And as I mentioned just now, this is the biggest challenge facing us. Because even if we have very good arts programs, or even if we want to bring this to the community, if the message is not disseminated to the community, it's difficult to do so. And that's why we have a number of new measures, for example, new apps, including the one for iPad, and we're also looking into the setting up of a dedicated arts and culture channel for promoting arts and culture. And all along we have been working with the Hong Kong Tourism Board, and as far as publicity and promotion is concerned, may I say that we must work with the sectors. And we can work with the sectors in promoting to other places our cultural tours, etc. As for other questions in other areas, I don't think I have sufficient time today to address these questions. Perhaps after the meeting, for topics of members' interest, we can continue our discussion. All right, thank you. I have to apologize, Mr. Chan Chi-chun, because we have finished asking questions and invited the Undersecretary to reply. So you can supplement your question after the meeting. And the other members as well, as we have drawn a line already. So I'd like to thank the administration and the government officials for attending the meeting for this item. We're moving on to the fifth item on the agenda, and that is development of the multi-purpose sports complex at Kai Tak. Perhaps I'll invite the administration in first.
大家如果有問題嘅咧，可以
If members have questions, you may now wish to indicate and queue up. Thank you, Secretary and Deputy Secretary.
政府當局咧就會用一個
The administration will brief members on this item with the aid of a PowerPoint presentation, and paper has also been circulated. All right, Secretary, you may begin. Okay, let me check where the microphone is. All right. Thank you, Chairman. Now, this multi-purpose sports complex at Kai Tak, the MPSC, has undergone consultation for a long time, and a decision has been made. Our original plan is that in the beginning of next year, we're going to report to this panel, because we have come up with an initial design, and we have also commissioned a consultant on procurement and financing matters. And we now have an interim report, and we're waiting for the final result. So our original plan is to report to this panel early in the first half of next year. But because of members' concern about this, during the last meeting with Chairman, we got the message that we should come early to report to members. So we're here to report our progress to members. So I'll invite Mr. McKinney, Deputy Secretary, to give us a presentation. He will be doing this presentation in English, but during the question and answers you can ask questions in Chinese. I'm sorry, I haven't introduced the administration. Mr. Jonathan McKinney, Deputy Secretary for Home Affairs.
Give more time for members to ask questions and to give opinions. Just very quickly on the background for this, the Kai Tak development area is over 320 hectares, and the public consultation on the overall outline zoning plan for Kai Tak took place between 2004 and 2006. As a result of the public consultation, a plan was published in 2007 which set aside a space of 24 hectares for the multi-purpose sports complex. This was in reaction to the findings of the public consultation exercise, which indicated there was a strong public desire for this to have a sports, recreation, leisure and tourism element within the Kai Tak development. I think everybody understands, and it's widely held, that Hong Kong has a shortage of sports facilities. In two areas in particular, we have a shortage of high-level sports facilities that have the capacity and the other requirements that are needed to host many types of high-level sport and entertainment events. We also, at the community level, have a severe shortage of certain types of community sports facilities, in particular sports grounds, football pitches and indoor sports centres. With this in mind, in taking forward the implementation of the Kai Tak multi-purpose sports complex, we do need to look not just at creating a new stadium, but also very much at the community facilities that will be an important part of this complex. So moving on very quickly to the actual scope of the facilities that we will have there. The main components of the complex will be as follows. There will be a 50,000 seat stadium with a retractable roof, and designed in a multi-purpose manner so that we can host a wide variety of major international sports and entertainment events under all weather conditions. We will also have a public sports ground with 5,000 fixed seats. This ground will be open to the public for regular use for things such as jogging, for football and rugby matches. Also, it will be suitable for holding international athletics events and also for athletics training and, of course, for schools use as well. The third major venue will be an indoor sports centre, which will have a 4,000-seat main arena, suitable again for international indoor sports events, as well as a 400-seat secondary arena. Again, this indoor sports centre will help to meet the need for community facilities and will provide a number of indoor facilities that can be used by the community on a daily basis. As well as these three major sporting venues, within the whole complex itself, there will be plenty of park-like space with areas for cycling tracks, for jogging trails, and things such as children's playgrounds, Tai Chi areas, fitness stations, and waterfront parkland. In addition to the sports and recreational facilities, there will be some space for office accommodation, up to 10,000 square metres, as well as a number of commercial spaces for complementary uses such as food and beverage and retail, and we expect these very much to have a sport and recreational theme. I think it's important to note here that as well as Hong Kong looking to develop this new item of sports infrastructure, many other cities in the region, in particular in mainland China, are also upgrading their sports infrastructure. As we can see, recent developments in Shenzhen for the World University Games, in Guangzhou. Hangzhou is developing a new Olympic and International Centre within the city, and of course our friends in Singapore are well underway with the development of their Singapore Sports Hub, which is due to open in 2014. It's also worth noting, hot off the press, that Hanoi in Vietnam has just secured the right to host the 2019 Asian Games. So they, of course, will be upgrading their sporting infrastructure as well. Just one more point on this. As well as providing new sports and recreational infrastructure for Hong Kong, the Kai Tak Sports Complex will actually play a major role in the regeneration of East Kowloon as a whole. And in this way, there are parallels with the London Olympic Stadium, which has played a major part in regenerating East London. The stadium, like our facilities, will sit in a major sports park, and it will play a major role in making that part of London a far more dynamic and improving the quality of life for the people living there, although the London Park is 10 times the size of the complex that we're planning in Kai Tak. So just to emphasise that point again, the Kai Tak Sports Complex is not just a big stadium project. It is a whole sports complex with facilities for different types of sport, entertainment, not just for international events, but also to help upgrade the living standards of people, particularly living in East Kowloon, but in Hong Kong in general, in terms of having a new sports and recreational destination. Just finally, coming on to the progress of the project, where we stand now in terms of implementation. We have completed the initial technical feasibility study for the project. This is an initial study which looks at the various environmental, traffic, heritage and other constraints on the site, and also the interface with other infrastructure in Kai Tak. It also sets out a preliminary project program and gives a rough idea of what the cost of the project may be. We've been through that initial process. We're now looking at the financing and procurement options for the complex as a whole. Clearly this can be done as a public works program item, purely funded through the public purse. However, there are other options for funding this kind of infrastructure involving some investment from the private sector. Late last year, we engaged a consultancy study to look into this area. The consultancy has just completed. We're now looking at their findings, but I can say that their findings initially are that in terms of procurement, they prefer a design, build, operate solution, which is increasingly common both in Hong Kong and in other jurisdictions for this type of major public infrastructure. It helps to ensure a smooth interface between the design and build and long-term operation phases and increases efficiency and effectiveness in the project. On the financing side, the consultant has recognized that this can be built as a public works project. However, they do note that many other projects of this type have involved an element of private sector investment. However, it would not be able to stand on its own as a fully commercial project. There will definitely need to be a certain amount of public investment in this project. But the option is to look at also engaging the private sector in investing in it. Finally, in terms of where we go next, I think we will study the consultant's recommendations on procurement and financing and aim to make a final decision as to how best to take this forward. In terms of the design, the detailed design, the master planning and the tendering of the site, our next stage will be to step up our public consultation on this. We have all along been keeping the sports community, through the Sports Commission in particular, up to date with the progress of the planning and with the consultancy work. We now need to go out to the wider community, to the district councils, and also to people who may be interested in partnering and developing this project. So in the coming few months we will start to roll out a more extensive consultation programme. Chairman, that's all I have for now. We'd be very happy to hear members' views and to try and take any questions on this. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. McKinney. 我哋而家馬上咧就開始我哋嘅。
All right, so we'll start our Q&A now. Many colleagues would like to ask questions, so may I suggest we stick to the 4-minute speaking limit, including the response from the administration. And let me read out the names: Starry Lee, Kenneth Chen, Lam Tai Fai, Albert Chen, myself, Wu Chi Wai, Yip Kin Yun, Chen Kwok Chi, and Yik Chi Ming. Any other members would like to ask questions? All right, that's the list for the time being, and Claudia Mo. As we're 15 minutes behind for the last item, we will extend the meeting by 15 minutes. The meeting will be adjourned at 10:45, and we need to save 5 minutes for AOP. So I think that this item will be concluded at 10:35. So first member on the list, Deputy Chairman Kenneth Chen. Thank you, Chairman. Let me ask this question in Cantonese. I understand that Mr. McKinney's Cantonese proficiency is excellent. I'll ask a question about Para 8 implementation arrangement. I understand that many members are also interested in this regard. I believe that in 2001, the administration also conducted consultancy study on the major sports venue.
I had the opportunity of reading that report. At that time, the matters considered were very similar to the present one, BOT or the financing options and other building approaches. This time around in the paper, I understand that the administration is still considering which approach to adopt in order to implement the project. What I'd like to know is, first, you talked about a consultancy study. Is it that the initial results are known, and can that be divulged to the public? and members, so we can understand the rationale as to why it has reached the conclusion or proposal that we should first go for a private company which will be made responsible for DBO, and at the same time that the administration should also make up for long-term operations so as to achieve the best effect. I'd like to know more the justifications for this proposal. Secondly, in the 2001 consultancy report, it is mentioned that in terms of financing, there was this proposal to make use of the Wan Chai government stadium in order to assist in the financing arrangement. I think that was meant to say that that site could be turned into other uses or be sold so that you can have some financing for this project. I'd like to know what the Bureau is thinking about this, or is that that is no longer an option? Those two options, please. Those questions, please. Secretary, the first one. About the consultancy proposal, as I said at the beginning, the final report has not been submitted. When we have the final report, certainly it can be submitted to the HA panel and other interested parties. It can be made public, in other words. Also, Dr. Kenneth Chan said that one particular private organization would be responsible for DBO. But the PPP option has indeed been proposed by the consultancy, that is public-private participation. What I'd like to say is the so-called one particular private entity, well, looking at other experiences overseas, usually it is a consortium instead of just one individual organization. The consortium would include different professions, including building, architectural, and also operational experts. Just like in Singapore, this is what they do. They use a consortium. As for the Wan Chai Stadium site, that is also the site next to the Hong Kong CEC. Indeed, that is our consideration at the moment. If the MPSC at Kai Tak is commissioned, then the stadium at So Kon Po can be used to replace the Wan Chai site as a Hong Kong region sports facility, because right now the Wan Chai Stadium is used by the academic sector and other people on Hong Kong Island a lot. Now that one is going to be a territory-wide facility. If the MPSC is completed, then the stadium at So Kon Po could be the regional sports facility for Hong Kong Island. There can be some adjustment, there can be a redevelopment, etc. As for the Wan Chai site, the administration will have to give it overall consideration. Okay. Secretary, please also try to give answers within the 4 minutes. Next one, Mr. Lam Tai Fai, and then Mr. Albert Chan. Chairman, Secretary. I'm so happy to see that you are very composed, because a few weeks ago I was afraid that you would not reappear in the council. The MPSC has stayed and has been revived. I think we have to thank the entire sports sector for fighting for its survival. And you said that it was a rumor. I really admire your capacity to accommodate views, but then things are bound to change, and I hope there will not be more rumors. I think you have to go at the project in full steam. It must be commissioned as scheduled. 2 years ago, about the application for hosting the Asian Games, I was a member of the sports sector, but then I objected because we did not have the appropriate venues to take care of international event. If we only rely on the Hong Kong Stadium, the Hong Kong Coliseum, and other district-based facilities, I don't think we can organize and host the Asian Games. So this one, the MPSC, is going to be of international standard. It is going to be a world-class venue. It can enhance Hong Kong's sports status and Hong Kong's international status as a whole. Now, as to how it will be built and how money will be used, I'm sure the Secretary, you will watch it closely so that you will not be taken to task for squandering money. That is not my worry, therefore. But my question is, within your term, will you think about applying to host the Asian Games again? That is a big topic. Now that we have these world-class venues, if we know that this is going to be completed by 2019, 2020, then perhaps we can revive our plan to host the Asian Games so that Hong Kong people and the Hong Kong sports sector have this goal to work towards. Secretary. Chairman, I'd like to thank Mr. Lam Tai Fai not just for his question as to whether we should apply to host the Asian Games again. We understand that last time when we did, Mr. Lam Tai Fai and others did not give us your support. So when we give fresh consideration to the matter, first of all, we have to really touch base with the LegCo first to see what you think before we make a decision. No, at the time we objected because most members were of the view that we were worried there would not be the right venues and also that there would be too much money spent. But it seems now that with the completion of the MPSC, we don't have to worry about venues anymore. And if you do not host international events, this will be basking in the sun and you will be taken to task. Just look at the Hong Kong Coliseum. It is not used for any sports activities at all, the year round. But this one will be a world-class sports facility, and if you do not host international events, well, I'm happy to hear from you that there will be 7 days where people can just go in and enjoy track and field activities. But that is not the end of the matter. You have to think about rehosting the Asian Games again now that we have this facility. Mr. Chairman, I thank Mr. Lam Tai Fai for his proposal. I'm sure after it is commissioned and completed, there will be different international events held there. We are also preparing to host international events even without this facility. As to whether we want to apply to host the Asian Games again, we'll continue to listen to the sports sector and others. Mr. Albert Chan, and then the next one is me. Chairman, I have a totally different view from Mr. Lam Tai Fai. A few weeks ago, I heard the administration change stance. I was so happy because it was the first time the administration has listened to me. I objected to having such a big sports facility for over 10 years. I have objected from the very beginning. It's not that I'm against sports, but I'm for finding the right place, the right site for a sports complex. Now, this is just a kind of venue. It is a multi-purpose venue. It is not a sports city as such. As this paper says, it is for sports and entertainment. In other words, just like the Hong Kong Coliseum. At the time, the Coliseum was designed for sports, but then it was now more for singing concerts by the famous stars. How many sports events can we expect to be held here? So basically, it is a design and siting fault. I like to say that it is a siting fault. This is the most serious city planning fault in recent years, because if you want to talk about sports, like Mr. Lam Tai Fai said, it should be a sports city, including track and field, diving, a velodrome, whatever. It must be a consolidated facility. You must find a big site that is served by the transport infrastructure, including railways. There should also be hostels, etc. But this one is nothing of that sort. It is going to be an entertainment center in the end. It is going to be for concerts by entertainment stars. What question do you have? I don't need an answer. This is just a remark. I'm not a member of the panel. I'm just here particularly to voice this view. I think this is the wrong site because, first of all, very precious urban sites have been used up. This is the last site in the urban area. At the time you did the design, there was not this sports complex, but Mr. C.H. Tung promised Mr. Fok Chun-ting that there should be this sports facility, but in so doing you are sacrificing the interest of people in the neighboring districts. The Kai Tak was supposed to be used for the redevelopment of nearby districts and also to relieve overcrowding in the urban area and also to provide for the open space that it's in short supply. But now for building this complex, you have sacrificed the interests of people in Kowloon East and Kowloon West. And also throughout the entire world, such sports facilities are removed from the city center and they would serve it with proper transport infrastructure. But you are going in the opposite direction. 50,000, 60,000 people would flock to this facility for a ball game or for a match, and the entire city would be paralyzed. Just in Beijing, you had hooliganism at football matches. Therefore, citing this in the city center is, of course, a wrong choice. And it is wrong for sports development, it is wrong for the use of urban sites, it is wrong for keeping security at events, and you are still going ahead with it knowing that it is wrong, and I will object. And if you come for funding, approval and support, the people power would try to wreck it even through filibustering. This is a wrong choice. It will victimize the entire society, and therefore we cannot support it. I support the building of a sports city, but not here, and yet this is not a sports city. I'd like Mr. Lim Tai-fai to wake up. He should not stay in a dream all the time. Okay, it's time for me to ask questions. The next one is Wu Chi-wai. I'd like to ask the administration this. A few months ago when I campaigned for LegCo, I was in contact with a lot of sports organizations and they voiced concerns and complaints. When the administration designed new facilities, and also if you look at existing facilities, it is their view that the facilities cannot meet the need of the sector. And very often the facilities do not measure up to the latest international standards. When international activities and events are held, there is always the difficulty. So I'd like to ask the administration how you can ensure that the MPSC facilities, their design would meet the need and aspirations of the sector and can also measure up to international standards. Thank you. Secretary. Chairman. Even at an initial stage, at every stage, we are consulting the sports sector. I head the Sports Commission, which is composed of representatives from the sector. So at every stage, we report to the SC and listen to views of members. That will be done continuously. As we go forward, we will consult the LegCo, the sports sector, the community, and all stakeholders. I'd like to follow up. When you think about future management of the venue, would you also allow the sports sector to take part, in other words, in terms of construction and management? Well, indeed, this is an integrated or consolidated sports facility. Mr. Albert Chan is not here. Actually, it is not just a venue. In fact, there are 4 buildings in this complex. And also there are office space and other spaces. So first of all, this is for the promotion of sports and the holding of sports events. It is for elite sports as well as for popular sports. So certainly we will talk to the sports sector. Thank you.
Next, Mr. Wu Chi-wai, followed by Mr. Yip Kin-yun. With this new large-scale stadium complex, we hold the expectation of holding more international major sports events. And when we do so, there must be a way to enhance the level of sports in the community with more participation from the community, so that we'll all have the passion for sports. Well, Secretary, you may wish to think about it on how to promote the development of elite sports and popular sports. Please give us a paper. Mr. Wu Chi-wai, at the next panel meeting, there will be an item on sports policy. So, second question. Now, with the commissioning of the MPSC, you're going to review the venues in Wan Chai, so a so-called pole. But will you review other venues as well, for example, the Hong Kong Coliseum, so that as far as the development of sports in Hong Kong is concerned, with the commissioning of this new large-scale MPFC, other venues will not be left idle or be left with low utilization. We have no plan to remove Hong Kong Coliseum or dismantle it. The booking rate for the Hong Kong Coliseum is very high. It's difficult to book this venue, we all know that, and it only has a capacity of 10,000, whereas for this MPFC, for the largest stadium component is a 50,000 seat stadium. So there is no plan to remove Hong Kong's Coliseum, and we think that we should further enhance the provision of sports facilities in Hong Kong. At present, it cannot catch up with public's demand. Can I follow up on it? For this MPSC, will there be special build or dedicated venues for training of elite athletes? Now, for the four major facilities, it's for popular sports as well as elite sports. For example, a track and field facilities, and we have received requests from the academic sector, and there is a long-term need for use by schools, and this will also be one of our considerations. Next, Mr. Yip Kin Yun, followed by Mr. Chan Kwok-chi. Chairman, my question is related to the previous questions. Now, about this sports city, now we would naturally think about the Hong Kong Stadium. The utilization is not very satisfactory. In the past year, it was rented out for only 90 days. And for sporting use, it was only 45 days or 60%. So if we have another large-scale stadium, we naturally will think about how we should boost the utilization. For example, international major sports events, this is one direction. The other direction is the dilemma that we're facing. There are limited training grounds for athletes, and Secretary also mentioned the use for community groups. But how can these two tally with each other? Some international major sports events will be held there. Some community events will also be held there. So in terms of booking of venue, you need to consider whether they can afford the high rent and whether there is a need for such a large-scale venue. So in terms of hiring charges, consideration should be given to cater for the needs of different community groups and the use at different levels. Secretary, thank you, Mr. Yip, for your question. Of course, we would like to boost utilization rates. As for the situation of the utilization of the Hong Kong Stadium, I need to point out the fact that we're still making money. Of course, we don't just think about making profit. We also want to promote elite sports and popular sports, including sports in schools. And the MPSC will provide facilities in an integrated manner for this purpose. Mr. McKinney? Well, just to supplement, Chairman, last year, 60 days have been used to hold religious activities as well as football matches and rugby matches in the Hong Kong Stadium. And we hope that the main stadium in the future will be able to cater for multi-purpose events like concerts and other large-scale activities. And the main stadium may not be suitable for use by schools and community organizations, and that's why we have a secondary arena which is suitable for public's use, just like the Wan Chai Sports Ground. Basically, this will be used by the public on a daily basis, and also for schools to hold competitions, and also for training of elite athletes. Mr. Chan Kwok-chi, next followed by Mr. Yik Chi Ming. Thank you, Chairman. This design of this project is a long-awaited one, and some members are concerned about the siting issue. But my concern is whether this project will turn into a white elephant. We have invested so much, and we don't want to leave it idle under the sun. Now, my question is whether this is a finalized design and whether you accept more views. The other point is that this is a large venue for holding major international events, but we need to think about the district's needs because it's situated in Kowloon East. So I'd like to know about the progress of consultation with the relevant DCs. It covers several hundred hectares. So I have a feeling that the main arena will be for, or the stadium will be for international sports events, whereas other facilities will be for district's use. It has a capacity of 50,000, but if people flow is low, then this will become trouble for the shops and retail outlets there. Now, the other point is about public-private collaboration. Now, the daily rent for the Hong Kong Stadium is 150,000 per day. So, in future, if we take inflation in, it will amount to 300,000. So, all events held there might probably need government subsidy. So, can you give us more information on the projection? So, coming back to my first point, my concern is that it might turn into a white elephant project. Secretary, whether we're talking about mainland or overseas, there are a lot of experience in the construction of such large-scale venues. So we have a lot of experience to refer to, and there, you should not feel worried that it will become a white elephant. The stadium and the Coliseum are actually making quite huge profits. And for the 4 facilities, including the large-scale venue, for the stadium, it might be suitable for holding major international events, whereas for the remaining 3 facilities, it's more for district use. Now, at present, for venues managed by the LCSD, like Cheung Kwan O, local residents are very happy with the facility because it will allow people to jog or use the facilities there. And here we also have a grass lawn and also jogging trails. And there is no concern of the project being a white elephant. We have invested much social resources. Of course, we want to put it to good use. As for more figures and information to be provided on Mr. Zhang's request, we will continue to do that. We urge for public support. We have 3 more members, Yik Chi Ming, Claudia Mo, and Wong Kwok Hing. Now, if there are no more questions from members, I'll draw a line here. And I'd like to remind members that we have another item under AOB, and that is whether a subcommittee on WKCD should be set up. So please try your best to stay here, Mr. Yik Chi Ming. Mr. Wu Chi Wai asked about the development of popular sports in the future, and Chairman, you said that this item will be discussed at the next meeting. I am new here. I don't know back then when the proposal of a sports city was floated, whether it was for holding major events or for the popularization of sports in the community. And Secretary said that for the 2 existing venues, they're making money, but the reason why they're making money is because the hiring charges are very high. So this is in contrary to the principle. I support major sports infrastructure, but as far as transportation is concerned, I hope that the administration could be careful about this, because when spectators come and go, the flow may be very high. Now, about PPP, I have not checked the previous reports, but in this paper, I don't see any projected estimates, the income and expenditure, so on and so forth. And I wonder if PPP is really feasible. Now, when in the previous reports, tendering exercise was not successful, and the government added more than 50 hectares for retail outlets, and still the tendering was not successful. So I'd like to know more about this, Secretary. Oh, several questions. I'll defer to Mr. McKinney. First, about transportation. We did look into that, and we found that for Kai Tak, what is the best siting option? Because, say, if you choose Mr. Albert Chan's constituency, it's rather remote. The transportation support is not very good. And for the Sharton Central Link, in the future there will be 2 stations near the MPSC for diverting people coming and going to MPSC. So the arrangement is better, and this is the best siting option.
Chairman, I was not questioning this. I was just reminding the administration to be watchful about the transport arrangements. Yes, I was also just trying to explain. As for PPP, the consultancy report is such that once we have discussed with the consultancy and once it is signed upon, we will upload it to the HAB website and also submit a paper for members' reference. The initial proposal by the consultant is that you don't necessarily have to go for PPP. You can do it alone by government, but in other similar projects, elsewhere, we can have a consortium investing into the project, so the development of the project can be smoother, so that there will be higher efficiency. That's the proposal, and we're still looking into it. Next, Ms. Claudia Mo, and then Wong Kwok-hing. Thank you, Chairman. I'm losing my voice, but I'm a little surprised. I heard from the Secretary say this about the Hong Kong Stadium, that there would be more concerts. Now, my impression is that people living around it were complaining about noise. How can you continue to use the Hong Kong Stadium for concerts? And on the other hand, the Hong Kong Coliseum is now actually a base for holding concerts. Therefore, I think you have stood Hong Kong sports facilities on its head. And also, you say that there would be a public sports ground. You say you can use it for jogging, athletics training, and competition, football and rugby matches. I don't think you have given us an exhaustive list. I believe you should add etc. there. Or else you say the venue would only be for these 5 uses. Then I would ask the administration to consider the ethnic minorities in Hong Kong, because they're particularly bent on playing cricket. In West Kowloon, they absolutely cannot find any space to play this traditional sport of theirs.
Be curious about, and that is your retractable roof in that 50,000 seat stadium. How retractable is it? 點用？點開合嘅呢？係咪好？
How retractable? Is it going to be of mammoth size? Is it made of glass or what? And how is it going to be cleaned?
OK， 局長。
Secretary, about the retractable roof, if we look around the world, it is quite a common component. I can defer to Mr. McKinney in a moment, and he can say so in English, because the question came in English. And just now, I was trying to... I never said that at the Hong Kong Stadium there should be more concerts, and you can go back on the tape. If I said it, I would like to withdraw that remark. I can also confirm that the Secretary did not say so. No. Who was sitting here? He said concerts, he said. So I was very surprised. Well, never mind, we can tackle that after the meeting. If I had said it, I would withdraw it. Any follow-up? The Deputy Secretary, and also the question on cricket. About cricket, it is going to be for multi-purpose. There is the retractable roof. You can also play cricket there. Yes? Yes. This cannot be done at Hong Kong Stadium. Many things cannot be undertaken at Hong Kong Stadium, but the MPSC is such that there will be this stadium for multiple purposes, and there would be more sports that can be held there, and it will not be turned into a white elephant.
Retractable roof has been standard in many stadiums around the world for nearly 20 years. Certainly in Japan, in Melbourne, the main stadium there has a retractable roof. The Millennium Stadium in Cardiff has a retractable roof. Many of the new stadiums being built around the world, the Singapore Sports Hub, which you saw earlier, will have a retractable roof. It looks complicated, but apparently the technology is very simple. And what it does mean is that in all weather conditions, you will be able to protect the playing surface, and you will be able to protect the spectators, and you will be able to go ahead with major competitions. Also, of course, in the future, for concerts, you will not have the noise nuisance, because you will be able to enclose the noise within that concert space in the new stadium.
Is it power consuming?
Sorry, time is up. Sorry. Last member, Wong Kwok-hing, and then Mr. Charles Smock. He wanted to ask a question, but sorry, we have already drawn the line. Mr. Wong Kwok-hing. Thank you, Chairman. First, Mr. Zhang, you have stood firm on the MPSC. I support you. If you had not done so, it would mean that you would have meetings without making resolutions and the sports sector would be disappointed. My question is about para 8 of the paper. It is said that this project should be done in a PPP manner for procurement and financing. I'm a little worried about this. When the consultant put forward that proposal, when the administration considers the future management, would there be a possibility for business-government collusion? When the consultant does the design, well, it is possible that he may have made preparation for the project being taken over by a consortium. It may be a kind of made-to-measure kind of design. This has been shown to be not feasible in the past, like tunnels, BOT. In the end, the operators would just go for reasonable profit, disregarding the public's needs. If they do not reach the level of reasonable profit, they will not be satisfied. I'm therefore also worried about this event, which has been the target of our efforts for many years, and this is a venue that the sports sector would very much like to see commissioned. However, if a consortium will take over the operation, then it will become quite commercial, that it will be a project just to generate profits to recover costs. So the Hong Kong public will be kept out of this major sports event complex, and it will be manipulated totally by a consortium. So this is a proposal by the consultant. Have you really looked into it seriously so that such a proposal will not be tailor-made for certain consortia and resulting in the transfer of benefits and maybe accusations about business-government collusion? Chairman, I thank Mr. Wong for the question. With regard to the procurement and financing options of MPSC at Kai Tak, we have not made a final decision. The consultant put forward the proposal, which is still being considered by us. It's not just the HAB, but the bureaus and departments looking after government finance would be discussing with us. Indeed, the consultant proposed a PPP approach. In other words, there would be business money and government money going into the project. At the Sports Commission, members also asked whether it should be totally funded by government. We should look at it from two aspects. Certainly, if we go for PPP, there would be this concern that there could be collusion between the government and business, and there could be transfer of benefits, etc. But with government, private, and the community working together, there are also advantages. We feel that we should not just let go of this proposal just because of the concern on collusion. We must attend to this cautiously. Right, that's all for questions. And I think this is also the end of this item. I'd like to thank the Secretary and the Deputy Secretary for the department, for the Bureau for coming. Now let's go into AOB. On the 16th of October, at the last meeting, Peter Chung reminded us that at the last term of LegCo, under the HAP and the development panel, there was a subcommittee set up to monitor the implementation of the WKCD project. He said that the project is going on, and therefore there is a need to consider whether we should set up a subcommittee also in this term. But since Mr. Fung-kwok is not in the room, now I'd like to know how we should handle this. I was talking to the Deputy Chairman, and we'd like to say that we should not discuss this today, but leave it till the next time. Any views, members? You agree? You agree that we take this up next time? Okay, if there is nothing under AOB, the meeting is adjourned here. Thank you very much.
多謝你提醒。